We need to make some roofs here. There is no clean way in Revit to do this. We're going to have to do it separate. Otherwise, we end up with either a gap here that would never work in real life, or we end up with overlap and the join geometry function doesn't play nice. So we're going to avoid that just by making the first bit of it and then doing the angled sitting on top. So you can see I came in here and I changed this name to roof, and then I went up 1 foot for roof plus one. If these are ever sitting on top of each other and you can't read them, it's because of the scale. So right now we're at 1/8. Let's come down to what 3/4 looks like. Yeah. So now I can actually read my labels. All right, so I'm going to come into roof plan. And I'm going to start making a roof. And I'm just going to, for the sake of ease, I'm going to hide the category of walls. What I want is a 6-inch offset hanging on the outside so rain doesn't drop in, and then a 6-inch offset on the inside as well. Because if you look at sections of the actual building, that's how it's designed. So I'm just going to come into roof by footprint. I'm just going to go with a generic 12-inch, and I'm going to make sure I just make it concrete. We'll tweak it maybe a little later. All right. And so now I'm going to go to pick lines. I'm going to set my offset at 6 inches. And you can see on these inside ones, current version is smart enough to auto trim for you. Older versions of Revit, you still had to come back in and manually trim all of this. So on the outside, because we've got all these separate columns, we're going to have to use the trim tool. That's fine. It's not a big deal, but we don't have a consistent line that goes all the way across. All right, so now I've got the shape. I've left openings for our skylights. I've got enough overhang that water's not going to be a problem. And it's a foot thick from roof level. So anytime you're doing roof by footprint, it builds up from whatever your base level is. Anytime you're doing roof by extrusion, it builds down. So I'm going to say OK. Now let's take a look at it in our 3D view. All right, we've got this. We're in pretty good shape. So I'm going to show you first roof by extrusion, sweep, and then I'm going to do walls. So what do I need? In order to do the sweep, I need to have a reference plane. So if I come into this view, and let's assume I'm doing it from our north elevation, I already have this reference plane. At the midpoint, I don't need to redraw one. So for me, it's B6. Just check yours and see what level it is. So now I come into my north. I'm going to start with model lines. And then I'm going to set the reference plane to B6. I'm not going to do chain to start. I'm going to come down. And I want this to be 30 degrees. So because of the way it's measuring, that's actually 120. And I don't want to come all the way up because this is the bottom of the roof. So I'm going to leave it short on purpose. All right, and now let's see. 120 does here. All right, that keeps me parallel. I'm going to come to the top. Now I'm going to come to what would be the midpoint. And luckily, again, we have this vertical reference plane. So I can make a midpoint. Now I can come down 6 inches. Come over however far I want. And use the trim tool. So now I've got this shape that's going to follow this. And now we need to tell it what edges to follow. So you can kind of see it in here. I'm going to switch views from realistic to hidden line. That should make it easier. So now I'm going to go into architecture, component, model in place. I want to make sure I call it a roof. On the off chance that join geometry works, you can't join two different elements. So I'm going to say sweep. And first I'm going to say pick path. And I'm just going to pick these inside edges. But I don't want to start anywhere other than where I drew these, because this is where my reference plane is going to come up. And it'll make life a lot easier if I start here. You can see this is now what Revit is assuming where I'm going to draw my shape. Alright, I have all 4 of those. I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to say edit profile. And I'm just going to go to pick lines. I'm going to start. Whoop. Let me undo that. And if I come in here and just hit tab, oh, no, it's not cooperating. That's fine. I'll just use the shift and my right mouse. Now I've got the correct line. So I got all my lines picked. I've got my path. I do not have any kind of material here. So I'm going to come in and do concrete cast in place. Same thing I did for the flat bit. I'm going to say OK. Lines must be in close loops. What am I missing? Apparently that one didn't actually work. I'm going to say continue. All right, let's try this again. All right, here we go. So I'm going to say finish model. And now let's see if I can disassociate it from its work plane. No, that's fine. Before you go copying this, you're going to want to do all of your skylights, because otherwise it glitches sometimes when you're trying to move things around. It says it can't find the host. So before I do any skylights though, I'm going to show the alternate version, which is using walls. So if for some reason you can't get this to work, you can use just walls, and then you'll have to do another roof on top. It's a little less work once we get into the callouts and the details to have it this way, but either way, if we can't get join geometry to work, we're going to have to do a mask region. So whatever works for you. So I'm going to come back to my roof plan. So I've got this one up here. I'll do one here. I'm going to come into architecture, wall, and I'm going to switch to finish face interior. I'm going to go from roof up to level 8. Actually, I'm going to go from roof +1 up to level 8. And I'm going to switch to something thinner. We just used a 6-inch on the other. I'll fix the material later. I could use pick lines and just do the inside, or I could just draw. I'm going to make sure chain's on, good. And now if I just draw these, ignore that. Alright, so none of those are visible right now because I'm pretty sure I'm still in structural. Yeah. So I'm going to go to architectural if I want to see them. But I'm just going to come to my 3D view instead. Here we've got these straight walls. This is all at a 30-degree angle. I need to match that. So I'm going to highlight them all. And I'm going to change this cross section where it says vertical. So I want this to be slanted. And I want it to be 30 degrees. And now you can see we've matched this slope. Now I just need another roof. So I'm going to come to my level 8. I'm going to switch to make sure, yeah, I can't see them because I'm on structural. I'm going to go architectural. Now I can see them. And I'm just going to make another roof by footprint. This time this one's too thick. So I'm just going to switch to roof 1 for now. It's not the right material, but it's the right thickness. I'm going to come from edge to edge. And I want to give it a negative 6-inch offset. Otherwise what happens is it sits on top and it ends up with a different shape than the sweep we just did. So I'm going to say negative 6. Now if I do a section cut, we'll see what the difference is. And again, this is still structural. So this is what I was talking about. No matter what we do, these are not clean connections between this and here. So when we get to our callouts, we're going to use what's called a mask region. It's just a little uglier over here because now we have this sitting on top and we have this conflict. Whatever works for you is fine. Let's deal with some skylights. So I'm going to come back into 3D. And the first thing I want to do is just stretch this one across because I know that's my midpoint. And I want to draw a couple more. I'm going to go model line, but I want to make sure I'm drawing on this. So I'm going to use the work plane here, drag down. I'm going to say pick, and I'm going to say pick a plane. Now I'm going to hover my mouse until I see it's on the actual rooftop. I can find this midpoint, draw another. So in theory, I should be able to just highlight these two. And I'm going to come to a top view here. I'm going to say copy. To unconstrain them apparently. And so now I have a grid for my skylights. I'm probably going to want to leave a gap in between and create some sort of offset here. So I'm going to come back to model lines. I'm going to say pick, and I'm just going to do an offset of 6 inches. And now the process is the same on either. I'm going to figure out my dimensions here. Unfortunately, unlike 5.2, unlike when we were doing the other windows, yeah, okay, we got a good square. I can't just use a line here to make it fit. I have to actually type in dimensions. And the best part is they don't always work the way you think, because you've got your rough opening, you've got your trim. So if this said 5.2, I'm just going to come in to window. I'm going to find my skylight. And you can see that's too small. So I'm going to edit type. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to make it a 5x5. Now when I come in, it's a lot closer. And I'm just going to drop all four of these, because even within the same roof, it will give me error messages about host not being available. I'm just going to plop them in, and then I'll use, for sake of consistency, I'm going to use a line with these model line offsets I made. So I'm going to come to modify, align, pick the bottom, pick here. And those were pretty close to each other. Rinse and repeat over here. Once you have them all in place, whichever one you went with, just do a drag, filter it out. So I want my roof and I want my windows. And now I can copy them, come straight up, click copy again, and I can change directions. And that is it for these roofs. I didn't align these, that's fine. I would in real life. And now if I come into my section, now we've got this. I probably want to move my section cut a little bit, so I'm actually through one of the windows. Alright, yeah, now we got something like this. That is it for the modeling of this. The rest of it is going to be doing all the materials for the section, the floor plan, and the two callouts.